Hello everyone, I am Puneet Kumar. Welcome to one of the video series in conversation with the alumni of our department. Today we have Anjan Das, who cleared CAT 2020. He is one of the notable alumni of our department too. Welcome, sir. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Puneet. Thank you for the introduction.
Sir, why don't we start by knowing about you a bit more by yourself? Please tell us something about yourself.
Right, Puneet. So I completed my electrical engineering from DSC, and that was in the year 2015 that I graduated. And post completing my electricals, I was placed with Infosys, and that was a department placement. So I had around 4.5 years of tenure for my side in Infosys. And while working with Infosys, I was working in multiple projects, and the projects were mostly limited, related towards the income tax department project, and there was a cosmetics brand for which I was working on. And I got a lot of promotions there, and I left Infosys after completing as a technology analyst. Post completing my Infosys tenure, I joined MBA. I joined my MBA stint at IIM Lucknow, and I specialized in sustainable management. Sustainable management is my forte now. And I would let you in details about how I came across sustainable management and what are the various things. But while pursuing it, it actually opened a lot of doors, a lot of doors regarding the future prospects of my exact existence. And post completing my MBA, I joined EY, and currently I'm working with EY as an assistant manager. And yeah, that's all from my side. And presently I'm working from home, but I will be joining the location soon in Bangalore. So that's the present situations. Yeah.
Tell us something about your CAT journey that you have come across.
Right. So Puneet, it has quite been a milestone for me. I mean, after completing my engineering, the reasons of choosing CAT were very different. But then it was quite a milestone, at least from my side. And I started taking CAT questions as, initially as that they're normal passages, RC passages. I mean, what can be so difficult about CAT? But then it wasn't the truth, it was very difficult. I mean, if you start comparing it about the regular passages, they're not as simple, or they're not as similar to what we have. Being an engineer, quants was my forte, and I needed a lot of practice in DILR, so that was another section. And I joined multiple institutes. So I had joined Time in Jayanagar, Bangalore, and post that I was also engaged with a private tuition group, which goes by the name Elites Group. It's there on Facebook. So during the COVID pandemic, because all the restrictions were laid down and you were not allowed to move from one place to another, so it was the online medium which was left out for practicing. So I come from the COVID batch of CAT, and yeah, initially it felt that in COVID, why would you take such a big risk, leaving your organization which has already given you a lot of aspirations and has already given you a lot of chances. Why would you leave that and take such a decision, that too in sustainable management, which was not that new, I mean, that very comfortable in India. But then if I look back at least 2 years down the line, I should say that MBA in sustainable management has been the best decision of mine in the COVID pandemic. So yeah, that has all been the entire journey till now. And I'm looking forward to many more milestones coming forward, Puneet.
Okay, sir. Sir, like after completion of engineering, most of the students are going to take CAT examination. So
right.
Tell us about the entire process and the syllabus of that exam, and how many stages will it have?
Right. So apparently what happens is when you try to sit for CAT examination, I mean, we initially come across, there are the three different topics that we have. So we have DILR, we have VRC, which is the verbal ability, and we have quants. So earlier till 2019, when I wrote my last CAT, there were 3 different hours, and each hour was dedicated to a particular section. And you were supposed to write down, fill up the questions in those particular hours. So you did not get a chance to, select them. So it always started with verbal ability, it moved on to DILR, and then went on to quants. So that's what was there. But then if there are students who are trying to start it up, it becomes very, you need to find your own momentum. You need to find your own understanding of why do you want to pursue CAT. And there are a lot of different things which come into picture as well. Things a lot about where you are starting with the books, the type of books that you're taking care, and the type of material and the hours that you are dedicating. They all come into picture. So if you ask me anything specially related to the books, then maybe I can go ahead with it. But if you ask me the selection process, then for CAT, we have the CAT score, which is considered for MBA colleges. We have the 10th marks, which is considered, the 12th marks is considered. So when I say they're considered, they are given weightages. So we have a certain amount of weightage which is given to these ones. We have academic diversity, which holds a value. We have gender diversity, which again holds a value, and work experience takes a certain criteria. So once you have written CAT, so CAT becomes one of the perspectives of qualifying. Along with that, you have these segments, which together give you a score, and that score is computed for the selection. So that's how the entire selection process happens. And yeah, I mean, after you write the CAT, you have the interview process, but in order to get a selection for the interview, you need to get the score and qualify for it. Puneet.
Yeah, you really explained it very well, sir. Sir,
Yeah.
How did you prepare for VAC, DIRL, and QA part of that exam? Like which source would you refer for those three parts?
Right. So I'll go in parts, Puneet, okay? And I'll like to be much more interactive. So you can ask me, I mean, let me go with the quant first, okay? Because we are all engineers and we have a knack of, giving that best shot. So being engineers, that becomes our forte, I must say that. So I knew that quant was something which, all of us are familiar with. And quants, which comes in CAT, are not very much in details. They do not have integration or calculus, or they do not have anything specific which a normal 10th standard student doesn't know. But what happens here is the quality and the confusion in the questions when you read them, that becomes the trickiness of the question becomes more intriguing. So I realized that quant is something which I will be focusing less on because I had a knack of doing a lot of math problems. So that was my least part of the subject which I practiced. VRC or verbal ability was the second subject which I put my focus on. And the most important subject for me was DILR. So DILR consists of data interpretation and it takes care of logical reasoning. So once you have an understanding of the type of questions, you realize that every year CAT comes up with new sets of DILR, okay, and they're mostly not repeated. So you need to develop that thinking. And in order to develop that thinking, for DILR, you have to practice a lot of questions. So what I realized by the end of my CAT preparation journey was that I gave maximum time for my DILR, followed by VRC, which is the verbal and passages, and then quants. So for DILR, I referred to the tuition group that I was talking about, the online Facebook group. We have very good teachers over there with whom I had an engagement with. And I used to have classes post my work from Infosys. So my classes used to happen after 10 o'clock in the night. So it used to happen mostly from 10 to 11 or 10 to 11:30. So I used to attend those classes. And for VARC, I used to read newspapers. And when I talk about newspapers, there are three different which I used to refer to. The Hindu was the prominent one. The editorial column of Hindu is the most significant one, which is recommended. And I had Times of India as well because it gives you a glimpse about what's happening and what you should not be focusing on. So the Hindu is something which you should be focusing on. And when you read Times of India, you realize, okay, these are the topics you don't need. And because what happens in passages of VRC is that you have a lot of different themes from where passages come from. You have themes which are political, you have themes which are based on French Revolution or revolutions across the world. So since we are not adapted to reading those kind of materials, it becomes difficult for us to grasp those sentences. It becomes very monotonous when you read them in the examination. So for VRC, reading a variety of material is very important. So that's what I used to refer to. And for quants, I started revising my 10th grade book. That was the first thing that I did. Once I was done with that, I was attending time classes as well. So as I told you, Time Janagar was where I went for my classes. So in Time Janagar, they give you notebooks. So they give you handbooks. So I used to finish those along with the classes that happened in Elite Script. So yeah, that would be all for the VRC and the quant section along with DIL.
Yeah, so when did you actually started preparing for this exam?
This is a pretty difficult question, I must say, because you really don't know when you start preparing. Because I'll tell you something. I got it through the CAT attempt at 2019, and I was preparing for at least a couple of years by then. But then what happens is, in order to get a chance in any IIMs, you have a minimum criteria of getting over the percentile limit in all the sections. So if you're not able to cross the cutoff in all the sections, you do not clear. So I got a chance lesser in the first attempt because of my DILR. So I realized that DILR is something which I should be focusing on more. And while I was doing that, it comes on your understanding. When you write CAT for the first time, it becomes very difficult to understand the first attempt, because you go there, you sit, there are hundreds of people who are sitting on there, and those 3 hours, it makes it very, it's a very competitive place, and you have to train your brain to accept that competence. So I guess preparing is not more, it's more about keeping yourself calm and giving your best. Along with that, being in a position where you are able to understand the difficulties of a particular topic, and keeping your calm, composed when you are trying to solve them. I guess that holds it up, for the entire life. And if you ask me, I guess that's what I did as well. I was trying to keep my calm while I was trying to attempt the questions, because those 3 hours you actually prepare 1,000 hours just to sit comfortably in a calm position for those 3 hours, because the questions that we practice are not much different than what comes in the examination. What changes is those 3 hours decide your future. So you always have that anxiety inside yourself, that you feel that, okay, what if I make one question wrong? And somehow one question that you're trying to get in the test, you are unable to find it out. So you spend a lot of amount of time in that. So you have to actually practice how to skip questions. So if you ask me frankly, Puneet, CAT is basically an examination that checks your presence on the foot. You have to be very much you have to very much aggressively understand which questions am I supposed to leave, which questions am I supposed to attempt. If you have a very clear idea about those, your CAT journey is something that you've understood. We are not here to get all the questions correct. We are here to get the questions correct which we are best in. So you have to identify those. So it is mostly like selection, and then doing the questions which you will be getting them 100% correct, and eliminating those that you think that, okay, they're not going to happen because I am not that great in that particular topic. Because you obviously miss out something. You might prepare, you might revise all the 100 topics, but the one topic that the first one topic that you leave out, that gets the maximum weightage in the examination. So because it changes, okay, and it's a very dynamic front, and a lot of things are dependent on those 3 hours, and people actually give a lot of time preparing how to keep yourself calm in those 3 hours. So if you ask me in a nutshell, the preparation started long back. Okay, my preparation started long back, and I was giving a good amount of time after coming back from my office. So after coming back from office, around 1.5 hour everyday dedication used to be there from my side. And I used to attend classes on weekends. So I used to go to time, and I used to also have my classes in the evening. So it was more of a disciplined preparation is what I would say. And without discipline, CAT is pretty difficult. I mean, that's what I have understood.
Yeah. Sir, how many hours you used to study during your preparation?
See, CAT is not a. I understand why you asked this question. CAT is not something that we do in our engineering. Like the last few days of engineering. I mean, before the externals, at least I remember. I mean, I've been through those days. It's like you have to have 20 hours in a day. So CAT is never like that. CAT is mostly a examination that you have to do every day. Like you miss out one day, you will feel the difference. It's like you read all the newspapers and then you skip a week. Okay. Your brain forgets how to get the important things out of a paragraph in a newspaper. So it's practice which keeps you in the correct position and gives you more perfection. That's how I would say, Puneet. So, but if you ask me the number of hours, I wouldn't count them on fingers. I would say every day, 1.5 to 2 hours, mandatory study is necessary. Okay. But if you are able to give more, it's good. But then you need relaxation also. After coming from work, you cannot sit for 6 hours at a stretch, because we all need to recharge ourselves. You need to sleep, you need to take rest, you need to talk to the family members. So 2.5 hours we can go at max, but 1.5 hour is a minimum requirement which we need to give every day if we are trying to prepare for that.
Yeah. So like how to prepare for CAT exam by doing a full-time job. So how did you prepare from the job, full-time job? Like how you manage the time and office work and all?
Yeah, right. As I said, Puneet, so I used to have my classes on the weekends. So my classes were sorted. So I did not have to go anywhere in the morning. So I was free in the morning for my own self. So I used to find out time for reading the newspaper and do one section in the morning. And after that, I used to go to my work. And I used to leave my workplace at a particular time and come back home. And then again, revise the next topic, which would be either DILR or quants, and doing this, when you start doing this for 1 week, 2 week, 3 weeks, you start getting a knack of it. So your brain kind of starts understanding that, okay, this particular person reads newspaper in the morning, then goes to office and then comes back, reads, then eats and sleeps. So it was, it was more of a routine, I would say, which I followed. Weekends were exceptional. Weekends I used to try to balance. So I used to study for some certain hours in the first half, like in the morning, and then I used to recharge myself for the upcoming week. In the second hours, either I used to visit my friend's place or I used to roam around streets in Bangalore, because I was there in Bangalore during the time I was preparing. So that's how I kept it balanced. So it's like balancing. It's like a spring balance that you have, and if you know how to balance it perfectly, you can carry it anywhere you want. You can either hold the spring balance while you're moving on a two-wheeler, or you can keep it inside your car as well. So you have to get that habit or prepare yourself to have that balance. So that's what I did, Puneet.
Yes, sir. So does the coaching plays a major role in CAT?
See, it's a very dubious question to say whether the coaching plays a major role, but I would say the coaching does play an important role. I wouldn't say it's a major role. The major role is your perseverance and your efforts. They play the major role. A coaching is kind of a guidance system. Okay, it's like the Google Maps when you're out on the streets in a new city. So if you don't know where to go, you use Google Maps, and that's what the coaching does. The coaching tells you that these are the different things that you have, and this is how you're going to do them. But then unless you do them on your own, it becomes very difficult, to adapt to it or to do it for the second time on your own. So coaching does play a role, but it's not the major role. It's a role which guides you. I would say it's a guidance system. And for me, I was lucky. I was lucky. Why I say myself lucky is because I was able to come across the online group that I was talking about. Now, if you see the number of students that this group has helped, I mean, I had roughly around 250 to 300 people who went into IIM the year I joined my IIM Lucknow journey. And I was lucky enough because these people came out with DILR type questions, which were fresh, and they gave me a different holistic to think about. And that's the reason I believe, I was able to clear DILR with such a high percentile and was able to crack the IIM Lucknow's interview there. So yeah, it does play a role, but it's more of a guidance system. Puneet.
Yeah. So what are the challenges that you have faced during this preparation?
Challenges are many, man. I mean, it's not easy, and being in Bangalore, doing your office work, and then when you see your friends moving out in the weekend, some are there out there in Chikmagalur or somewhere else, and you're sitting in a notebook and trying to solve a question which defines HCF and LCF. It's not easy. Okay, you need to do a lot of sacrifices, and you need to quantify those sacrifices. Now, when I say sacrifices, they're not necessary that everyone has to do it. Okay. But then what usually students do, or what I did was, I used to reward myself for every activity related to CAT that I used to do. As I told, that I kept the balance, of moving out on weekends, at least on the second half post lunch, with either of my friends. So that's the reward that I used to give them. So I used to keep a dedicated hour where I used to go and amuse myself, and the remaining hours were dedicated towards CAT. Now, it's the mental blockage which comes up when you see people switching companies and you are still in the same company, in the same job, in the same role, with the same financial conditions. And it strikes to your mind sometimes, that should I stop this CAT journey? Should I try to look forward, switch a company, get a better hike, and settle myself? And that's the most important point. If you're able to write your reasons of why do you want to do CAT, I guess you become very strong-headed. And being a strong-headed is one of the most important things, which is not easy. And that was one difficult thing that I faced as well. There were multiple times, and when I felt that okay, I should leave this preparation, it's anyways 2 years that I've been doing it. There's no point for me anytime. And let me just switch a job. I've already been in Infosys. Why not go to TCS? Why not go to Cognizant? There are great companies out there. Why not take a major leap of faith? But then there was some reason with me, why I wanted to do my MBA and crack CAT. So I focused on that, and when I felt low, I talked to my friends, spoke to them. I remember my classmates from DSI. Have been in interaction with them, spoke to my family members, and yes, I practiced a bit of meditation as well. That helped me overcome the difficulties of self-doubt. Puneet.
That's great, sir. Like while taking up this type of exams, students will undergo lots of pressures and anxieties. How to overcome the pressures and anxieties during the preparation?
Right. So what happens is, see, these anxieties are natural, and you're supposed to get them. You're supposed to be anxious the day when you're writing the examination as well. But till the time you are able to keep that anxiety in your head, not your heart, it's a good to go thing. But I would still say that when you build up your own confidence of preparation and revisions, you kind of reduce that anxiety that you have. You realize that okay, I have prepared, I have done my part. What maximum can go wrong? I might not understand, or I might understand. These are the only two possibilities you have. It's always a binary choice. Either the question that you get, that, or the question that you get, you don't know that. These are the only two possibilities. So when you practice a lot, Puneet, you build up a high favorability or a high possibility or a high probability of knowing what you are going to get in the examination. So I remember when I was in my 12th or my last engineering maths examination, M4, second semester. Sorry, second semester. Yeah, second semester. It was there. Uh, I remember practicing a lot, and the reason why I practiced was because I was not favorable to all the Lagrange's values and all the eigenvalues. They were very new to me, and in order to tame them or keep them under my control, the only thing which I could do was practice, understand, practice, and relate them to the present situations. Because I was able to relate them to the present situations, I was able to get a 125 on 125 for M4, and that's still one of my one of my entire thought process and relative achievement, I must say. I mean, the last maths examination, I mean, in my entire life. I did have maths in my MBA as well, but that was not complete maths. It was different. But then from engineering, that was at least helpful. So yeah, Puneet, I mean, that's how I would say, that's how I put it across.
Yes, sir. So, like some students will be in that dilemma, like which books to read, how many times they have to revise the syllabus, will they are supposed to take many marks or not? Can you please clarify like which books to read for these exams with sections wise?
Yeah. So I'll start with VRC. So for VRC, what I did was in order to, so VRC basically has your passages and the others apart from them. So for passages, you need to understand and you need to come up with a lot of activities, a lot of readings, which I used to do after while reading Hindu. So Hindu served my reading ability points of view. Whereas in order to practice for the others, which incorporated the finding out the missing words or other type of questions, there was a set book which I had from time. So I used the time material for my preparations. For DILR, I used the time material along with the books of Arun Sharma. They were kind of helpful. And I also referred to the DILR passages, which was given by the Facebook tuition group, Elites Grid, that I had. And for quants, it was again the Time Academy books that I referred to. So these are the three different books that are three different categories of resources that I referred to, Puneet.
Yeah, thank you for that, sir.
Yeah.
So like for current affairs, yeah, you have told that you referred the Hindu newspaper. Like which part did you concentrated more on that Hindu newspaper? Is that an editorial part or something like political news or something like that?
So editorial part is the most important part. That is what I used to start with. So what I used to do, I used to go with the national news, the international news, the political news. Not political. When I say political, it is the international politics that I'm talking about. It's not the Indian politics. And the editorial section in Hindu gives you a very good judgment about what's happening and how have people taken an action on them. So these are the most sections that I used to do. And uh, there are other sections, and there are other places that I referred to. I recollect one place for my current affairs. I used to refer to the videos of Study IQ. They are usually mostly taken up by the people who are preparing for UPSC. So I used to refer to those videos because they give you a deep information about what's happening on a particular topic, like the recent war out there in Russia. So or any of the other topics. So that was another source that I considered.
So like while preparing for this exam, how you planned your entire journey? Like initially, how many years you thought that from within these years I can clear CAT examination? How you planned your entire journey of your CAT examination? What was your plan?
No one actually knows, that you will be clearing your CAT in the first attempt, or as I told you, because there are sectional cutoffs.
Yeah.
Okay. So because of those sectional cutoffs, what happens is you are not sure whether will be able to make it out on all the sections or not in the first attempt. So for me, when I wrote the first time, I told you, right? I took it as a normal English passages. What difficult can it be? I was good with English. But then when I went to the philosophical passages, I mean, you start reading them, and then once the passage ends, you have already forgotten what was there in the beginning. So that was a trick over there, which you don't know when you write it for the first time. I did not take a class of coaching in the first attempt. I just wrote it like that, thinking what difficult might it be, and then I came into realization that okay, no, it is something for which you have to strategically plan. And I guess one big way or one big supporter for me in getting this cleared or getting it done from IIM Lucknow would be not changing my job. I guess because I was keeping myself at a particular company, I knew the company rules, I knew the company's projects, and I was already working with the project. So because I did not change that, I guess that is something which was constant, and I did not have to have a variability in that. I knew that, okay, my work are limited to these many hours of my life, and whatever time I get apart from that, I can dedicate them strategically properly. As I told you, like in the morning as well as in the evening, that's how I used to plan, and that helped me across, clear it up. Maneet.
Uh, Sir, you have mentioned earlier that you worked in the IT sector for a couple of years. What made you to shift your career from IT sector to the management sector? Like, what was the reason behind it?
Knew this question was coming up. Yeah, so okay. So I was working with Infosys, and I don't know whether you are aware of NGO out there. So we have an NGO in Saudamani layout out there in ISRO layout nearby. Uh, it's known by the name Youth for Seva, YFS.
Yeah, yeah, sir.
It's headquartered in Janagar, fourth
Yes.
block or third block. I don't remember the block exactly now, but it's headquartered in Janagar. It has its office there, and I was attached to it since 2017, I believe. So I have been a part of YFS, and we have the members over there. And while I was being a part of it, I had people from Infosys who were there in the same organization, doing causes good for the society, or at least good for yourself, things which you do to keep yourself in a sane mind. So while doing that, I came across this CSR department guy who was there in Infosys. So I joined the CSR initiatives which were happening at Infosys, and went into a few plant drives, or plantation drives, or other cleaning drives, waste collections. And when I did that, it was pretty interesting, to understand that how management decides on doing good for the society. That's the first crux which came into picture. Now, as I was working with the with my income tax department out there at Infosys, I realized that management is something which makes me, intrigued, because we were doing all the coding, but there were people who were sitting up on top of us in the management sector who were trying to decide what to code. And because I had already been doing, coding for like 4.5 years, I was kind of like try to understand that, okay, why do you want this particular thing to go out in the production, or why do you want this particular thing to be out there on the lives? So in order to have that understanding, management was the only way out for me. I had a discussion with my managers as well, and few of my seniors, and I told them that see, I am interested, or I like this particular role, where people decide what to do, not how to do. We know how to do it, and we know why we are doing it, but what to do, that decision is usually taken up by the senior management. Like let's talk about the metro rails which you still have over there in Bangalore. I'm sure they're not finished yet. I'm still going to have a lot of metro construction when I visit Bangalore this time as well. So the management is the most important thing. Without that, you are not able to go any further. So that's when I was exposed to, CAT, and I started with my CAT preparation. So it was mostly the last 2 years, 2.5 years at Infosys that I was preparing for CAT. And that's how the motivation came up. Now, if you ask me, why did I choose sustainable management? That is something which came up after I had cleared my CAT, because all the things that I was doing, while I was working with, not working, where I was associated with Youth for Seva, they were mostly related to the social welfare, things that you do for people who are not at all, or not, in a positions to do things, or, things that you do to bring a better environment out there beside your place. So that gave me an initiative towards why sustainability. And I did a bit of research. And while I was doing my research, I realized that sustainability is something that big data and analytics was a decade back. So like how big data analytics a decade and a half back, how it was trying to, boom up. It was trying to spring across places in and around Bangalore. I mean, it was not there more than, behind that. But similar to that, we have sustainability, which is in the present conditions now. And sustainability is not new. It is just that it has not been exposed much out there in India today. It has definitely started in the past 2 years. But while the time I was joining, it was not much into action. But in Scandinavian countries and for the places out there, you did have sustainability, which was existing, past 30, 40 years. And that helped me understand why sustainability. And I guess my best decision was to choose sustainable management from IIML Lucknow. Puneet.
Yeah, like that's great, sir. Like, can you suggest some of the online resources which are used during your preparation? You mean the important websites for CAT examination and YouTube channels apart from the Study IQ?
See, apparently what happens is when you go to online YouTube channels, okay, there are multiple methods. Okay, I'll be very frank, Puneet, okay, and I'll tell you that what exactly happens. There is a type of question and there are multiple methods of doing that question. In the examination, you are supposed to do it in one method. Okay, now if you're familiar with one method and you know how to do it in that way, it's good. But if you try more than one method, it's better, because then you are able to gauge which takes lesser time. Okay, now there are a lot of forums out there on YouTube which discuss the mock tests. You were talking about mock tests, right? So I took the time AIMCATs, and I took the other mock cats which are available from, I guess it was LEP that I took it from. Yeah, Career Launches, CL. So these are the two places where I took mock tests on, and people used to discuss the different ways in which you do these questions on YouTube. So when you search using a particular AIMCAT that which happened on a particular day on YouTube, you'll get people who are discussing that, and you can find out methods of solving them. So that was something which I did. So there is no specific website or a specific page for it. You just to find it out there, and it will be present there. Puneet. And one thing, if you go to the next question, CAT preparation is something where you want to have all those things that you need for your preparation, but you do not want excessive topics or excessive resources also on your plate. That kills your revision. Okay, for me, if you ask me, you need to divide your time into 3 phases. The first phase is when you understand what is CAT, what are the various topics in it. The second phase is when you have understood and you have practiced all of it, you know. And the third phase is the revision phase, when you just revise to increase your speed of doing a particular type of question in the examination. Because you see what happens in CAT examination, you don't get questions of one particular logic in it. You always get questions which have 2 different topics combined. You know, you can have distance and speed time along with the probability involved in it, and that gives you one question. But when you try preparing for it, you prepare a speed and time question, speed, time, and distance question separately. You prepare probability questions separately. And examinations, what people do is they fuse those 2 topics to give you one question. So that's what happens. If you are very smart and very clear in understanding how do you do both of them separately, you can do both of them together as well in a single question. So I guess that's important. Yeah, I did interrupt you. You may go ahead. Yeah,
it's okay. It's totally fine. So by keeping the minimum required resources and maximum revision will be the key to the success, right?
revision. And as I told, dividing the time to 3 different
parts. How many times did you actually revise the entire syllabus?
See, I told you, the syllabus never gets over. Okay, the syllabus never gets. You will lose out on the first topic or the second topic. So it's kind of like you don't need to practice the alphabets, right? You'd never practice the alphabets. You just use it everywhere, and that's what happens with topics of MBA as well, topics of CAT as well. Because you become so good at reading comprehensions, you can actually understand the meaning of the passage when you see or when you read the Hindu at the first glance. So that's when you understand that you're okay, you have actually developed, you have actually come out from rereading a passage to understanding the clear meaning of the passage the first go. So utilizing whatever you learn in your daily life helps you a lot. And if you ask me revision, I did give 3 times, but then that's just on an individual sake. People have cleared CAT with 0 revisions as well, but they are fresh graduates, which I would say is not the correct way of doing it, because it creates a lot of burden on on your head, and you get rise a lot of excessive pressure in your head, you have a lot of anxiety attacks, and a lot of things come into play. But for me, it's always better to have a safe game, and the more you revise, the lesser anxiety you have on the exact day of CAT.
Yeah. Sir, tell us something about the interview journey that you have come across.
Oh, my interview journey at IIM
Yeah.
Lucknow, it was pretty decent. So you have the initial formalities that happen, and I had my HOD. I did not realize until I was back in my college that he was the HOD, the head of the department that who took my interview. And during my stay at Bangalore, while I was already preparing for this, I also started a small venture of my own, which was related to urban farming. And because that was there with me, I was able to, substantiate my understanding along with the reasons of how and why I wanted to do sustainable management. And if you ask, people actually wanted to know if whether you are interested in learning and whether you're able to whether you'll fit in that particular place or not. Because what happens with people with work experiences is they come from a place where they are already exposed with a regular timeline, 5 days of work, 2 days of freedom, and then again 5 days of work. Now, coming out from there, when you join a college, the experiences are very different. They want to know whether you are ready for that experience or not, along with your knowledge that is definitely tested on. So I had a lot of questions based on quizzes, because I said maths was my favorite and give an example of my 125 and 125 and M4. So they had a lot of questions on maths quizzes for me. And they also asked about my startup. And they also look out for people who are into extracurricular activities. So they did ask me what chords would be favorable, in one of the songs that I recently played. So that's how my interview was for IIM Lucknow. And it was a pretty cozy, pretty easy on interview. And I guess the calmness is what took me through, because the managers that people look out at IIMs, they need people who can do a lot of stuff, but they also need people who can do a lot of stuff by keeping their head cool. I mean, that's what I've been focusing on since the beginning, Puneet, that if you know how to tame your head, you know how to crack CAT. That's how simple it becomes.
Yeah, this is going to be a very important question. Like sometimes having plan B is very important in life. What was your plan B in the CAT examination?
To switch a company, that was the only plan B that I had. But then I did not want to switch company because I kind of liked my project that I was working on, the income tax project. So I never wanted to switch, but I never wanted to continue there as well, because again, I told you, I had my own aspirations as well. And those aspirations that I had did come down in a month or two. So no specific plan Bs, but then, yeah, I mean, if I had not done an MBA till now, I wouldn't have been in Infosys for 4.5 years. I would have switched long back. So I knew I would be doing an MBA, and that's why I, kept on staying with Infosys.
Yeah, well, let's move towards IIM. Sir, please tell us something about the IIM and its culture.
And IIM is an adventure. Okay, it's an adventure of a lifetime, because you come out from your office culture where you're working for 5 days and you take 2 days break. But when you go to any B school, there is no break time in it. Okay, you are engaged with a lot of things. You're challenging yourself every day to make yourself better than the others. Now the others who are there in your college, they are also the best brains out there from the country. So you understand the competition being so tough. There are a lot of quizzes, there are a lot of fests which happen, there are a lot of workshops which are kept, there are a lot of parties which happen, and all of this amalgamation, they make you a very different individual. Like the year when you enter MBA and the year when you finish it up and come out, you're a completely different individual. You have that never stopping to finish or accomplish anything culture. And at IIM Lucknow, I mean, we are very much disciplined on that front, and it takes a rigor, I mean, and time to build it up. So you have a lot of professors, and all those professors are pretty much they're pretty approachable. You have chai with them in the evening when you're discussing a topic, or you go play out with them, watch a movie, or you can even go to the places and discuss something that you're thinking to have a startup on. So it's a very adjusting life, very challenging life, and a life which always wants to keep you on your toes. You are never found that you are relaxing, or it's a Sunday, let me have lunch and have a very calm, relaxing culture. So that's never there. It's always a very enthusiastically motivated environment, I would say. You're always up for any challenge, because you never know what comes up tonight. You can always have one particular celebrity coming and visiting you guys for a fest, or the next day, very next morning, you have a quiz worth 30 marks. So it's always a mixture that you have out there in time.
Sir, you have completed MBA in Sustainable Management from IIML. Please tell us something about the course Sustainable Management and what made you to join this course.
Yeah, so sustainable management, if you ask me, it takes care of all the business activities that are there in any company or any particular organization, but keeping the things of the production, the procurement, the financials, everything in a judicious way. Okay. Now, it might seem very simple that we already have the CSR department in a company. Why do you want to have a sustainability professional joining us? But the topics and the themes are very different. You understand how do you take care of a company, and how do you not disrupt the present situations. I mean, you must be hearing about the climate change which is coming up, the India's pledge towards the recent global climate conference that happened. It's all that we are going to focus on. We are going to have a lot of changes coming up in the society. The businesses are changing themselves. You see Tesla saying around, there was a recent news, I guess, around Tesla, yeah, that they have not been given a recommendation letter for one of the things related to ESG. So ESG these days, along with sustainability, has taken up the place. And as I told you, like how big data and analytics was a decade and a half back, we have ESG and sustainability taking up, and all the organizations are working towards it. All the companies are working towards it. All the colleges are working towards it. They all want to contribute towards it so that they can keep the existing systems running. So that's how sustainability was. And you get a lot of options. This is all a bird's eye view, but when you talk about the type of projects that I've dealt with, you understand how big an impact it creates. The chai that you have in your home, or the coffee that Hati Kappa, sells, how much of an impact does that bring on the climate change or the climate conditions around there. And that's when you realize that what small change can I do, or what change can I do in that company, that I will be in a position to reduce the amounts of effect and be much more sustainable to the entire society. So that's how I would describe in the beginning, Puneet. Yeah. For sustainable management.
Sir, if you want to give suggestions for the CAT aspirants who are preparing for CAT examination, what will it be?
See, I would say find your reason of why are you trying to do CAT. Okay, it shouldn't be the reason that I will get a better package or I will get a better financial condition. If that's the reason, you will lose the enthusiasm in a week or a two, or a month or a two. Okay, you need to find your reason, your call, and then you need to start your preparations plan. Without a proper plan, achieving anything is very difficult. If you do not have a plan, nothing is possible. You need to plan out your entire journey with the time that you have left. If you say that you have 6 months left, you need to plan it out in 3:1 ratio. So you'll have the first 3 months understanding what's there in the CAT examinations, the remaining 2 months doing all the type of questions that you have in the last month for revisions. There's just an example that I'm putting across. If you have 9 months, you are lucky, you have more time. But then what I as a examiner, or I as a aspirant had realized, the more time you have, the lesser focus you get if your will is not strong. So I would say that focus on the strategy. do one step at a time, but do it every day. If you're doing it every day, it's possible. It's very much possible, because we are all humans. We are all, bound to lose it out sometimes. But if you have that rigor and practice inside yourself, nothing changes yours. You'll always be up there in the examination. Yeah.
So ultimately, consistency will be the key for success.
It is the key to everything, Puneet. I mean, it's not just the key to CAT examination, it's the key to everything. If you have to build a healthy lifestyle, you have to start eating. If you don't eat, or if you think that, okay, eating one day in a week, healthy one day in a week, it's not going to give anything in your life. But so consistency is the key. And that's what I've been following.
Yeah, that's great. Almost we have reached the end of the discussion. Sir, please tell us something about your fondest memories of engineering in Dayanand Sagar College of Engineering.
Yes, so there are multiple memories. I mean, I remember the first year we were in the new engineering block. We were merged with the other departments. I was the ME department, I guess. ME, yeah, medical electronics department that we were merged with. And the journey has been very different, because I have never stepped outside my home for such a long period of time and my academic journey career. So staying outside was the most important and the most difficult thing for me in the first year. Coming around from there, I guess I did enjoy the ethnic days. There were a lot of fests which happened in the campus, a lot of college fests which happened. And I realized uh, my robotics workshop which I did, that was something which I had enjoyed thoroughly. I guess Nandan sir was there with me while I was trying to arrange it. I remember I was in my second year that I had arranged that, and post that, I guess in my third year onwards, I had started going on a lot of trips. There was a college trip sponsored as well. There was a trip to the falls over there, and I guess it was more of doing things inside classroom and experiencing and understanding them on the outside. The canteen food, I remember the first year I was there, it was the hostel. We had the mess in the new hostel block. I used to enjoy a couple of dishes from there, and a lot of things related to, mostly after the college. I mean, what happens is once you take the elective subjects, I remember Balaji sir, he had been pretty good guidance to me, and he had guided me a lot. I remember a lot of things are owned to him. And I remember my interest towards embedded systems, which is still there. I had a discussion with him while I was joining my MBA. I told him that, sir, this is what I want to do. And he asked me that, why are you telling me now? It's already COVID time. Let's have a discussion once you're in Bangalore. So I guess the time with my professors, the time with my friends, I remember my batchmates who have been there with me. Somadeep was one person who has been a part of my CAT journey as well. If you refer to my posts, I have given him a good amount of share of my entire success, because he has been quite a support towards me. So that's all that has been. Ethnic Day, as I told you, was a day when we were all in our choices. So yeah.
Yeah, almost you've reached the end of the discussion. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being with us. We are extremely honored to be speaking with you.
Thank you, Usha ma'am. Thank you, Satish sir, for giving me this chance. And I would like to have a few more thoughts shared before I leave. So if there is anyone who wants to have an understanding in details about how or would want me to have a mentorship under for CAT preparation, I'm always a call away, and you can let me know. And I'll be visiting Bangalore soon. So once I visit, I'll come and meet you guys in the department, and let's see what how more can we exchange presentaries and have a discussions about the betterment of the electrical department. Thank you, Usha ma'am. Thank you, Satish sir. And it was good to talk. And let's hope we meet everyone in person soon. That's how I would end. Okay. Thanks, Puneet.